You have said it better than anyone I've heard so far. It's very complex. It is very complex. Although, I mean, I started off with saying the macro is simple. The 30,000 view is simple. It all comes down to conservatism. That's the simple answer. It all comes down to conservatism. But as you peel the layers, it gets very, very complex. The problem, and I could go in. I've had a desire not just to do those other videos that I've been doing at the end of each show, but to also start making videos about the issues between the Israeli and Palestinian problem. And I've been wanting to do that because I think I have, I don't know if it's a unique view on it, but because of how I was raised, because I was raised Jewish, because I've been to Israel, because, you know, I'm a leftist progressive type person, because I reject, Netanyahu, because I believe that the Palestinian people deserve to have a state of their own, but I do support a two-state solution, because I was in Israel when Hezbollah was shelling. The day after I left a kibbutz, they went into bomb shelters. I've been there. It was a little terrifying. Don't get me wrong. It was a little terrifying when that happened. But, my ideas on these issues is that, hey, Cassie, has been that, either a lot of people are going to agree with what I have to say because I'm coming at it I feel from a fair, objective point of view, and I'm trying to be as fair and objective as possible, and I'm willing to put the blame, where it rests, which is different places, and not being like a whataboutism type blame, but looking at honest, fair examples of where blame belongs. But then the other side of that coin is, you might also have a lot of people who might all hate what I have to say because I'm not willing to only blame one side or the other. Because you have a lot of people when you're discussing this topic who only want to blame one side or the other. You have a lot of Jewish people who only want to blame the Palestinians, who only want to blame Hamas, who only want to blame one particular group. And you have a lot of people who are Palestinians who only want to blame the Jews, who only want to blame. You have people on one of the most toxic parts on TikTok is you'll have Jewish people who are creating videos that have nothing to do with the Israeli Hamas issue and who will just comment Free Palestine on something that has nothing to do with Israel or Palestine or anything to the fact. So those people are probably not going to be winnable because those people are just so hardened in their heart that they're not going to be able to see that, there is wrong that is being done on each side of this discussion. But as I said again, even though you can and at the macro level look and see, again, it all comes down to conservatism, and you can see, generally speaking, how the wrongs done by people like Netanyahu do foster, like with settlements and everything, it makes people more susceptible to be radicalized and maybe join Hamas. You then also see how the actions of Hamas from a macro level do make it more likely for people on the Israeli side to become more radicalized and vote for people like Netanyahu, and how that's a cycle and that's a wheel that needs to be broken. With all that being said, again, none of that justifies any particular bad action. There's no whataboutism about the particular individual singular actions about kidnapping children and kidnapping the elderly. There's no anybody who tries to say anything about when somebody says Hamas was wrong about kidnapping those kids or kidnapping those elderly people. Anybody who tries to then say, well, you have the situation where Gaza isn't no. If you cannot say Hamas is wrong for kidnapping children, and if you cannot say Hamas is wrong for kidnapping elderly people, or you cannot say that Hamas is wrong for kidnapping anybody who is an innocent civilian, then you're part of the problem. Because you are then playing the whataboutism game. That's whataboutisms. Just like when outside of this whole thing, if we're talking about settlements, I will say Netanyahu is wrong for supporting people who go build settlements on the West Bank. But what about? No, there's no whatabouts. It's wrong for that to happen. There's no excuse for that. None whatsoever. If the people who want to say that we should, or that Israel should flatten Gaza, no, that's wrong. That would be wrong to do. That would be a war crime. That would be a violation of the Geneva Convention. That would be absolutely wrong to do, because you would be willfully killing innocent people. You'd be just as bad as Hamas at that point. You need to only go after the people who did the kidnappings. And there's a difference between going after the people that did the kidnappings and having, civilian casualties that are on the side and which are unfortunate, and just flattening the entire Gaza Strip. It's two different things. You want to minimize civilian casualties as much as possible, which is what Israel claims to do, and what somebody on the media confirmed with at least one Palestinian person that they do when they make those phone calls, because at least one Palestinian citizen confirmed that he was on the phone with Israel for 45 minutes while they made sure that a building was emptied before they flattened it. But again, if you cannot say that Hamas is wrong for kidnapping children, kidnapping the elderly, and if you're going to try and make some excuse for it, then you're part of the problem. There is no free Palestine excuse for that. There is no, but Israel. No, there is no buts. That's wrong. There's no excuses for it. And whoever did that needs to be punished. Period. End of story. And you're not going to change my mind.